Today we're checking out the BG-800 Roadcase from Phil Jones Bass. Hey, welcome back to the Bass Channel. My name is Dave, and while you're here, take a second, look down, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, leave a comment, leave a like, and become a member if you'd like to help us out a little bit. Now, back to your regularly scheduled review. Alright, for anybody out there who's not familiar with Phil Jones amps, I'll just say this. They pack a whole lot of power and a whole lot of tone in these tiny little 5-inch speaker cones. And in this case, you get 12 of them. Now, don't freak out, you're not going to end up with an amp bigger than an SVT fridge. Because these are the 5-inch Phil Jones drivers, this amp comes in at about 3 feet high and weighs just under 80 pounds, and all by itself can produce up to 750 watts. If you add another cab to it, that number goes up to 950 watts. Okay, if you're, again, one of those people out there who's not familiar with Phil Jones amps, these little tiny speakers are kind of amazing. They've got a frequency response that goes all the way down to 30 hertz and all the way up to 15K. So they're down there getting the low end done and pushing all the air, especially when there's a bunch of them. And of course, the frequency response goes all the way up to that airy, glassy high end. It's very much what you put into that speaker, what you put in through the amp is going to be exactly what comes out of that speaker. It doesn't have a lot of coloration unless you want it to. And that leads me to the 5-band EQ that has blown our minds a little bit. This 5-band EQ is just low bass, low mids, high mids, and treble. But I'm telling you, it is more versatile than some multi-band graphic EQs that I've dealt with. The low bass and high bass kind of work together to where you're always going to keep your low end, and even if you have to pull out some frequency for some room woof or something like that, it's always going to be supported with low and thick. By the same token, all the way up on the other end, the treble knob. You turn up most treble knobs and you might get something glassy or ice picky or harsh or sibilant. This treble knob just gives you string zing, a little bit of fret clack, just in a nice pleasant way. It's really hard to describe. Crank the treble up and it's pleasant and airy and it's nice. Meanwhile, the low mid and high mid knobs are basically doing what you'd expect low mid and high mid knobs to do. The high mid gives you that extra presence if you need it to really cut through, and of course the low mid just kind of gives you some of that supplemental kind of juice in the middle when you need it, or can drop out when you don't. Alright, while I'm talking controls and features, I might as well move on and talk about the effects loop. The effects loop in this one is a little bit unique among bass amps because it's got a mix control, so you can dial in just how much effects loop you want in your effects loop. Alright, so I just talked about, in order, the EQ and the effects loop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a tone that uses both. This is Chuck Bailey running a bass micro synth in the effects loop, and what we noticed while recording this is that moving the settings around, especially the middle three knobs, the high bass, low mid, and high mid knobs, can really bring out all of the different overtone series and different kind of underlying layers in the micro synth. So it's more versatile than we would have even expected with a pedal in the loop. For this tone, we just set it where we thought it sounded the best and most representative for the song. I have never gotten that clear a signal out of a micro synth. They're always like... Okay, for this next tone, it's Josh playing a Rick, and of course we wanted to give it a little bit of that extra growl. So for once, for one demo, we put a distortion pedal in front of the amp and cranked down the low bass knob just a little bit to really bring out that vintage 70s Rick character, and the little bit of overdrive helps too. So, rounding out the rest of the features on the top panel, you've got your input jack, which has a three-way switch for active, passive, or to mute the signal, but it's also got an input level, so you can actually dial in your bass to just below clipping to make sure you're getting the best signal to noise humanly possible. You also get an auxiliary input that you can jam along with, but it's also got its own level knob, and of course you've got a headphone out. Meanwhile, around back, you've got your power switch, your power cord. You've also got your speak-on jack for connecting an external cabinet. And again, connecting an external 8-ohm cabinet brings this thing up to 950 watts of output. You've also got a line in and line out in case you want to run a master-slave setup. And of course, you've got your DI output that has both a ground lift switch and a pre or post EQ switch. But that's not all, because also on the back of this amplifier, you've got tilt-back wheels to make it just that much easier to carry around.
Maybe I like doing things my way. This is me. I don't follow the rules. They told me, gotta clean my act up and behave.
And that just about wraps it up. Thanks for watching. Again, this is Dave for the Bass Channel saying be safe, and we'll see you next time.